chances that you and I are consuming hidden sugars is almost 100%. And I'm going to show you some of the recent data that came out for some of the top 12 most popular foods where hidden sugar is, but also I'm going to show you a list of all the different names that sugar is hidden under that goes in all the different foods that we consume on a day-to-day basis without even knowing, right? So you're going to walk away from this knowing exactly what the different names for sugar are, and then some of the top 12 foods that have been pulled together where you don't even know you're eating the sugar, but it's there. So why does this matter? Okay, well, I eat carnivore, and you might eat carnivore, you might eat plant-based, you might eat whatever, paleo, whatever it is. But the whole point of doing that is to achieve metabolic health, right? And we know that one of the best ways to achieve metabolic health is to stabilize insulin. And insulin is stabilized when we don't spike it. And a lot of times what happens when we eat sugar, well, what does happen when we eat sugar is that we spike our insulin. And so that makes it very hard for people who are trying to overcome chronic illness, anxiety, depression, struggling with weight loss issues. Even people who have dementia have been shown to have a high intake of sugar. Same with Alzheimer's, same with people who have bipolar disorder. All of this goes back to inflammation and mitochondrial dysfunction is what the latest research is finding. And often that comes from spiking our insulin too much to where we have insulin resistance. And that often comes from a too high intake of things that will spike our insulin. And that is most of the time sugars, right? So again, I don't think sugar is the enemy here at all. I actually think that we evolved to have sugar based off all these conversations that I've had. But there's a certain amount, right? We didn't just constantly have sugar. So again, what I'm going to show you right now is the lists of the different names for sugar. And then the top 12 most recent most popular foods that have a ton of hidden sugar in them, so that you walk away from this like knowing, okay, what's going on and where to navigate, so you don't have to struggle with these issues. Okay, so the first thing I want to show here, the different names for these sugars are. What happens is often manufacturers mix in different types of sugar into products to keep any single one from standing out. This is a real thing. They don't want to have like sugar as, you kind of have to list ingredients by the most added into the food that comes first. And so they don't want to list in sugar as the very first one of like, making up 20% of what the ingredients are. So they'll put it into different names to kind of sneak it in there. And why do they do this? I don't think this is like a whole conspiracy narrative thing where it's like they're trying to kill us. No, I think these are people like you and me that are trying to sell a product. And the thing is, when things taste better, people buy them more, right? Like it's kind of obvious. But they're also engineering them to make them more addictive so that we keep buying them. It's just sales. It's just sales. It's just cycling the sales process. But that ain't gonna fly. That ain't gonna fly with us because the problem is that it works. So here are some scientific and processed sugars. To be clear, some of this is like somewhat naturally occurring, but I'm just going to go through the list of ingredients that will be on your foods that you can pay attention for. So here we go. It's sucrose, glucose, fructose, maltose, dextrose, lactose, galactose, and trehalose. Trehalose. That almost sounds like a foreign word. But those are scientific and processed sugars. Again, some of them can be naturally occurring, fructose, right? Things like that. This isn't all an evil chart. I'm not saying this is like an evil version. I'm saying this is a different way to describe sugar. But now I'm going to go into some other disguised sugars that would be on the ingredients list for us to pay attention to. First is evaporated cane juice crystals, fruit juice concentrate, caramel, golden syrup, panela, and this is where it gets interesting, ethanol maltol, and then maltodextrin. So let's use maltodextrin as an example just to break it down a little bit. This is a common food additive that's apparently used as like a thickener, and it's a filler or a sweetener for a lot of processed foods in particular. Usually it's added to drinks like sports drinks. I have it here as like energy drinks, breakfast cereals, sauces, condiments, processed meat, even processed meats for sure, as a filler for like a flavor enhancer. A lot of protein powders will use this. A lot of low fat and sugar-free products use this to replace, typical sweeteners like just the obvious sugar. The question is maltodextrin considered a sugar on food labels? What I literally typed that in to figure out what the answer would be on ChatGPT, and it said maltodextrin is typically listed as part of the total carbohydrates on food labels. However, it is not usually counted as an added sugar in the United States, even though it is a carbohydrate that does increase blood sugar levels. It might not be explicitly listed as, quote, sugars unless it is a product that specifically calls it out, but still contributes to the total sugar content in the food. If you're concerned about maltodextrin in terms of sugar content, it is generally considered a type of sugar, but may be separately identified as added sugars on the label. So this is where it's kind of tricky, where it might not be considered into total sugars on the ingredients list, but we're still consuming it, and it does still react in the body as a sugar would, and it's used as a sugar to increase the flavor, the palatability of a food and all that stuff that would make us want to eat it more. So if we're thinking that we're eating something, a lot of us, I think in America, I think we're eating something, let's say a protein bar or protein powders that are going to be the right decision and make us healthier and happier and keep our blood sugars low, which is then in turn going to help us stay more metabolically healthy and keep our insulin stable and all that kind of stuff. But when we can't see the actual ingredients that are in the food and how they actually react in our body, it makes it really freaking hard, right? So this maltodextrin is just a really good example, I think, of what these ingredients are, how they're hidden in there. So I'm going to put this image up here again of this is some of the different names for the sugar that's not sugar, that is sugar in our foods. What I want to go to next is kind of like this is the hidden sugar content in every single day food. So I'm kind of reading off of this list here that I wrote out. So I'm going to go back and forth. Here are a few of the places that we need to pay attention to for where added sugar is. What I want to look at here is first white bread, right? We've got white bread, 2 slices, 3 grams per slice. You got Yoplait strawberry yogurt, 18 grams of sugar. Pasta sauce has 10 grams of sugar in half of a cup. That's a lot, right? Half of a cup. No wonder, it tastes so good, and there's a reason for it. Orange juice, again, I don't think fruit is bad for us, but it has 21 grams of orange juice of sugar in it. So if somebody is looking to do a keto lifestyle, which the goal of that isn't just vanity, that helps to reduce inflammation, that helps to make anxiety go away, depression go away, helps people lose body fat, but it also helps people overcome mental health disorders. They're finding people can heal schizophrenia with this, and bipolar disorder, and stabilize mood disorders in other ways. You can only have maximum 25 grams of carbs. So in a single orange juice, there are 21 grams of sugar in there, which is going to equate to possibly even more carbs. If we look into, just a few more of these, Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. People that are eating carnivore, right? If you're eating carnivore and you've got a lot of sauce on your situation there, you're going to have 16 grams of sugar typically on 2 tablespoons of sauce. It is the most tragic thing. It's terrible. I actually had a friend who makes barbecue sauce, and he was like, yeah, basically all it is like brown sugar and white sugar. That's essentially what it is. And it tastes delicious, but there's a reason that it tastes delicious. So if you're eating carnivore, what I'm going to recommend is you wipe the sauce off. I do that regularly. I know it looks weird, but I'm doing this for a reason, right? You look at Caesar salad dressing, right? I've always thought it was weird when people thought that salads tasted bad, because I'm like, it literally tastes like the dressing that you put onto it. It's just crunchy. I've always thought that was weird, even when I just mostly ate salads. But it makes sense here. Look, the Caesar salad dressing on average is about 5.2 grams per 2 tablespoon serving. So I don't know about you, but I'm definitely having more than 2 tablespoons of salad dressing when I have a salad. It's a ton of sugar, tons. Like all of these women out there who we've all been told to eat these salads, we're just getting a bowl of sugar because it's just the salad dressing that's just like doused all over it. I guess if you're eating olive oil and that's like what you're doing, that's different. But, you know, most people aren't. Even going into, let's see, what we give our kids, applesauce, there's 36 grams of sugar in that per cup. This is like name brands of these companies that have these products. What this data is showing is the kind of like average of what these products have in them. I want to look at my last one here, which is going to be let's look at the average granola bar. So like a granola bar has 8 grams of sugar in it on average. We think of granola bars as like a great supplement to your day and like making sure that you can use it when you're hiking and like, you know, all that kind of stuff. But there's so much sugar and there's just like a shot of energy that's sugar. But for people that are trying to get healthy, we go to hospitals, we go to doctors, we go to dietitians, we do all these things. You know, we're given often these lists of foods that are so high in sugar that we don't, like it's hidden added sugar in there that we think we're doing the right thing, but we don't achieve the results. And then we keep having to take medications and pills and all that. And we wonder why. And this is in part why. For you and me who eat carnivore, we're probably not stressed about this. For our kids, what they're getting at lunch, what our parents are eating, what we think is like considered healthy, you know, it's all just loaded with added sugars. So what I want to go to next is kind of like the what are the actual nutrition guidelines for daily sugar intake by the US? What I said at the beginning is on average, Americans are eating 3 to 4 times the recommended intake of sugar. 3 to 4 times, dude. That's a lot. And again, I don't think it's because people are just shoveling in teaspoons of sugar into their face. I did when I was a kid. I used to eat those sugar cubes, like the little ones. But on average, it's people that are like just trying to do the right thing. Eat a granola bar, eat a protein bar, eat, you know, some fruit sauce, have some pasta that's got some meatballs in it. It's, you know, trying to eat a healthy lifestyle. So what the guidelines said in 2020 is that added sugar should be about 10% of daily calories, or maybe a little bit more of that. Again, we are eating 3 to 4 times that in our day to day because we're getting so much from hidden ingredients. For adults, that's 19 teaspoons a day of just added sugar. And for kids, that's 20 teaspoons a day, my dude. 20 teaspoons? That's a lot. That's a lot. And the last thing I want to point out here is this chart. And this is something I talked about at the very beginning, but this is the chart that was recently put out there about the US consumption by calories. Since the 1970s up until 2014, I thought this was really interesting because it's pretty revealing. Just to kind of explain it for a second, since then, the blue lines on there basically represent the foods that the guidelines recommend us to increase eating. So the blue lines, you can kind of see most of them are slanted upwards. This is what we were told to eat by the US guidelines in the 1970s. And according to this graph, we did that. The consumption of those foods went up. And then you can see the little red line that is like third from the bottom there, not the big one, but the other one. That red line is representing the guidelines that we were recommended for us to decrease. So let's look at these lines really quick. If you look at the total number of, let's go top to bottom. If you look at the total number of calories on the top right there, it says we have an increase of 28% in terms of the total number of calories that Americans have been eating since the 1970s. If we go down to the second blue line, it says total plant foods minus the sugar. What it looks like we were recommended there was to have an increase of plant foods, and we saw an increase of 44% of that since the 1970s. Below that, it looks like the total animal foods, we were told to decrease that if you guys recall, animal fat was kind of demonized, told not to eat as much protein. It can give us heart disease, issues with our liver, all that. We did that. Our total animal foods actually decreased by 6%. And then below that, those two last lines, added sugars, was told that it was okay to do that, increased by 10%. In fruits and vegetables, we were told that it's good to do that. We want to add more fruits and veggies and all that. It increased by 7%. So if you look at this chart, what happened is we did follow those guidelines. We did the damn thing. And our calorie intake seems to have shot up quite a bit, but it also appears that our sugar intake did increase quite a bit as well. And we're also seeing that back to this image here, that so much of our sugar is coming from hidden ingredients that are not called sugar, but they're in the every single day foods. So, we might be told to have more salads, okay? And that's something that was recommended, more fruits and veggies and salads, and that's fine. But when you add, tons of salad dressing to that, which is often promoted, you're going to get a giant spike of sugar intake that's not necessarily directly called sugar. It might be called maltodextrin. So anyways, I thought this was really interesting, you guys, and I think it's so important because, again, I want to be very, very, very clear. I eat carnivore. I sometimes eat animal-based, but I do not think that sugar is the only single enemy here. I actually had a really interesting conversation with a guy named Chris Kenobi. You should watch that here. This one got a ton of views in like 2 days because it's kind of shaking our foundation about like, hey, is it just sugar? Is it something else? I don't think it's only sugar that's causing people to have mitochondrial health issues. Watch this. I think it's really fascinating because this guy spent literally his entire life not being paid, he's not carnivore, any of that, just trying to find the answers. I think it's part sugar. But I also think that, we have way too much processed foods. We have way too many ingredients that are not telling us the truth of what's in the foods that we're eating. And we're consuming way more sugar than we think we are. And that goes for our kids too and everything else. So, back to why we care about this, right? We just want to be happy. I personally believe that everybody out there has so much more that they can achieve in their just being them, but you got to be able to think, right? And if you're anxious and if you're depressed and you've got all these layers of health issues stacked on top of you, then your reality is kind of like captured and you can't be who you're meant to be. You can't achieve the things for your potential, which is looking the way you want to look, feeling the way you want to feel, acting the way you want to act, making the income you want to make, having the friends you want to have, just the general lifestyle you want to have. That is why this matters. And at the end of the day, we want to look good, right? But that is not what we're talking about here. This is big picture. How do we achieve our potential? And in our society today, we are taught and sold and told so much information that isn't necessarily there to benefit us. It's there to generate money. So that's it, right? The sales runs the world, honestly. And I'm a sales director. I love sales. I'm all for it. And we deserve to know what the ingredients are in our food. And we deserve to know where hidden sugars are and how to navigate this reality. So here's the call to action. Here's the very, very, very simple solution in my perspective. Eat mostly meat, people. Have a damn steak. If you're open to that, if you eat plant-based and whatever, fine, that's cool. But the other call to action is remove all processed foods as much as we can possibly do that, right? Like processed foods only exist because we pay for them. It's supply and demand, very simple supply and demand. So the call to action is, for me, is eat carnivore. If you are struggling with metabolic health, go 100% carnivore for a couple months so that we can heal the inflammation, we can reduce the inflammation, we can heal the mitochondria, allow your body to get back to ground level. And then from there, sure, go in and add things if you want to. Like if you want to have an apple at some point in your day, 25 grams max, 50 grams max, to be able to have sugar. And then, I think at the end of the day, don't be sold by all the things that we are sold. That all of this stuff is going to make us healthy. All of these things that were processed, it's not real. It's not necessarily nefarious. It's just people trying to sell stuff. Eating real animal protein, eating real food from the earth, eating single ingredient products where you don't have to question what's in there is the fastest, most direct path to achieving one's potential, because you're going to get rid of all question marks about what's in it. You're going to feel good immediately. You're going to look good immediately. It's cost effective. You guarantee you know what's in it. Anyways, you guys, I'm going to get off of my tangent now. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys being here. As always, please subscribe if you're into this kind of stuff. I'm getting the latest information on all different new research, different science. It's so interesting what's going on in our world today. We're kind of breaking the paradigms. Go ahead and subscribe if you're into that kind of stuff. I discuss all things human optimization, exploration, life hacks. Like this if you liked it. Please do share this with somebody you think needs to see it. Yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you on the next one. See ya.